Om Namah Shivaya. My name is Nirmala Chaitanya. Welcome to the Walking the Path International Women's Conference. I'm so very pleased to introduce our speaker today, who will answer some of our questions about women and spiritual life. Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo is one of the most revered Buddhist teachers in the world and one of the very first Western women to be ordained into the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo is a bhikshuni, or a fully ordained Tibetan Buddhist nun, in the Drukpa lineage of the Kagyu school of Tibetan Buddhism. She is an author, a teacher, and founder of the Dongyu Gatsal Ling Nunnery in Himachal Pradesh, India. Early on, living in a monastery for 6 years as the sole nun among 100 monks provided a first-hand experience of discrimination that restricted women's access to teachings which were freely imparted to men. She was told to pray that in her next life she would have the good fortune to be reborn as a male. This experience prompted her to eventually live by herself in a cave. And it is for this that Jetsunma is perhaps best known, for living in a remote Himalayan cave for 12 years, 3 of those years in strict meditation retreat. Her story was profiled by Vicki McKenzie in a book called Cave in the Snow. Since this period of time in the cave, Jetsunma has taken on the cause of equal rights and opportunities for Buddhist nuns. In 2000, the Dongyu Gatsal Ling Nunnery was opened with the purpose of giving education and training to women from Tibet and the Himalayan regions. I am deeply honored to introduce Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo today and to have her answer some of our questions. In fact, I can't imagine this conference without Jetsunma's voice contributing to it. Thank you most sincerely for taking the time away from your practice and your retreat to share your experience and wisdom with us. My first question, Jetsunma, you once made a vow to attain enlightenment in a female form, no matter how many lifetimes it takes. I expect that this vow has inspired many women on the path, myself included. One part of that vow, however, the words "in a female form," suggests that the experiences and challenges faced on the path may be different for women. How has being a woman influenced your experience of spiritual life or your experience of the teachings?
Well, one point is that being female, one directly experiences the discrimination towards women, which is often made quite unconsciously by the male teachers. I mean, they're not really aware of how discriminating they actually are. So until very recently, there was really so much, even in the spiritual realm, that was not transmitted to females. And now, of course, the whole times are changing, and also women are becoming more highly educated, even in Asia. So then women are now beginning to find their voices and to bring attention to the problem. Before, they never even recognized often that there was a problem, because that's how things were. Now they're recognizing, no, wait a minute, this is actually not fair. So males also are becoming much more appreciative of women, finally, and aware more of women's focus, intelligence, devotion, and their sincerity. So now they are beginning to take women much more seriously and to teach them and train them and give them all the opportunities for advancement, which previously had been denied. So it seems to me now this is really a win-win situation. The males are not losing anything and the females are gaining. I mean, the whole human race now is coming up in that way. But there's still a little way to go.
My next question, the book Cave in the Snow inspired me a great deal. I believe it planted a seed for renunciation within me, which years later sprouted. I ask because, like you, I live in India. At times, I feel that regardless of my dedication to practice, my experience, my knowledge, I'm seen only as a woman. It seems to me that when we renounce, we are in some ways renouncing being a woman. In fact, my teacher says to me, "You're not a woman." And yet, to some people, I am only ever a woman. So I'm wondering, is renunciation a radical act for women? Is it a feminist act? What is the importance of feminism for one who is following the spiritual path?
Well, first of all, I think that total renunciation is a radical act, either male or female. I don't think that's the thing. But on the other hand, it's also not necessary to always go in for outer renunciation, because what is really important is the inner renunciation, the ability to inwardly let go and release our grasping mind. That's the thing. And I think either female or male, that's a problem. Male maybe grasp more at the idea of status and, professional competency and material outer show. Women grasp more at families, children, and their own personal appearance and so forth like this. I mean, this is being very, very wide. I mean, the different people are different. But in general, we're all grasping at something. And so what we're trying to do is release the grasping mind. And so whether we are grasping at material status or whether we're grasping at family or appearance, it's the grasping which is the problem. And as the Buddha himself said, that clinging, grasping mind is what brings suffering. We think that holding tightly will bring us security and happiness, but in fact it just brings anxiety and stress. And so that's the point. I don't think it has anything per se to do with either male or female. It's a matter of what you're grasping at. It's the grasping which is the problem. So that can be inward, and outwardly we might be looking just the same, not any difference. It doesn't mean that we have to all leave home. But our attitude towards what we have and to those around us, that's what has to change. And we have to just let go.
My next question. Many religious and spiritual lineages have traditionally excluded women or not afforded equal opportunities for ordination and for study. Should our aim be to strive for equity and inclusion in these lineages, or should we be striving to build something new? I would like to know, how can I create a positive influence as a woman within a spiritual system?
Well, one of the problems about starting something new for women is that it would usually be considered inferior by the more traditional, male or female. If it's different, it must be not as good. And, like difference equals degeneration. So therefore, what we need, for example, here in India with the rise in education for Buddhist nuns, they have to follow the same program that the boys did. Even if maybe there are better ways of doing things, we have to prove first that the nuns can do exactly what the boys did. Because if they don't, then somehow it's because they can't. And I hope that in the future, as more and more nuns themselves become teachers and carry on the lineage, that it will naturally begin to shift a little bit in emphasis, and new ideas and new ways of doing things will begin to come in. But in the beginning, we have to be very careful and look as though we're not trying to change anything too much. That, you know, so then my feeling is women at this point have to prove themselves to themselves as well as to the boys. And that's why slowly, once they've clearly established themselves, then they can start making the changes. This is the thing. So likewise, nowadays also, because everyone is becoming so much more highly educated, women as well as men, it makes no difference. Also now the teachers are beginning to relax more and give out more profound teachings also to the lay people. Before in Buddhism it was all directed to the monks, but nowadays it's directed, most of the audience are lay people, and within that most of them are women. So therefore now naturally the teachings are going out, and anyway, I mean, that's not the point. The point is that women should put together and slowly, if they support each other, things will change. I don't think we have to worry too much that they won't change in a way which is most expedient for the female, but that without becoming militant about it, just gradually, slowly evolving into an appearance which is more congenial to the feminine mind.
Next, coming from a Western society into a society like India that's maybe a little more closed, how does that influence the impact that I may have? Maybe from your own experience you can share something about this. When I see others getting more opportunities only because they are men, what should I do? Should I raise this in my community? Should I remain quiet? If I see myself not taken as seriously as a man, what options do I have? What should I do?
Well, again, I think we have to be cautious. We have to be careful not to be too vociferous in our claims. Because if we start attacking, then all that the traditional male response will be is to, put down the portcullis, open up the drawbridge, and close it, right? And then they don't hear anything anymore. That's it. They're closed off, and they retreat within their own justifications, and they don't hear our complaints. So we have to be skillful, right? We need to be careful and simply go our own way, but without raising a storm of resistance. I think that's the way to go. Just do your thing, but very sweetly, very politely, and just keep going, right? So, of course, this is still a man's world. And of course there is still discrimination. We all know that, right? I mean, and discrimination is very unfair because females have all the competency that the males do, if often not more. But the problem is that often women themselves do not support women. This is one of our bigger problems. I'm not worrying about the men. I'm more concerned that the women, because so very often women are more supportive of the men than the men would be. I mean, often the men are more feminist than the women. They are absolutely wanting everything they can do to help us. It's the women who create the opposition. So, I mean, you just look at a mother. The mother is the one that is going to influence so much the attitude of the children as they're growing up. And yet she also discriminates very much in her attitude and her behavior towards her sons and towards her daughters. So already she's planting seeds, which, you know, they are just taking in with the mother's milk. And they don't even recognize that it's a discrimination which they received directly from their own mother, right? Why do the boys think I can't do this and I can't do housework and that's a woman's thing? It's because that's what the mother told them. That's what the mother did. She got the daughter working and the son, you know, scoofed off. So, I mean, this is the problem, really, you know. I think that women should come together as groups and as communities, you know, and support each other and encourage each other and pro-female but not anti-male, right? Just doing their thing in their way, appreciating each other and just going ahead. And so then there's no sense of, you know, it's not a war. And we need just to encourage each other in our own particular gifts. And in that way, everybody can live together in harmony, because that's what we need. And women can offer what is specifically a feminine offering. They can do it without being in opposition to anybody, supporting everybody, everywhere.
A question that I'm often asked by students, and so on their behalf I would like to ask you, how a woman can maintain a balance in their life between a desire to sincerely follow a spiritual path and a set of practices with the demands of family, life, relationship, motherhood, the many duties and responsibilities that a woman often has.
Well, you know, I mean, as I mentioned in the Renunciation, we should not divide our life into spiritual practices and then everyday worldly life. We should use our daily life as our spiritual practice, because there are many qualities which we need to develop on a spiritual path which need others in order to cultivate them. I mean, for example, you know, being kind, being compassionate, being generous, ethical, patient, and you know, thinking of the well-being and happiness of others beyond ourselves. Family life is perfect for that. And, you know, merely, you know, sitting and doing your pujas or doing your meditations, that's very good for helping to train the mind. But we also need to train our heart in outreach towards others and the well-being of others. And for that, we need people. And, you know, especially people that we have a genuine responsibility to nurture and care for. So, you know, a household life is perfect for developing all these qualities of the heart and hand, which are not dealt with so much when we're doing just formal practice. So we should look on our daily life as the opportunity for practice. And when difficulties come, how to deal with them skillfully and take problems onto the spiritual path, not making a division. There's no division. As long as we are conscious, we can be on a spiritual path. If we do our everyday actions, even washing up and cooking and so forth, with mindfulness, with awareness, with clarity, and with a good heart, to develop this loving awareness, then it doesn't matter what we do. I mean, sweeping the floor is a spiritual practice. And of course, in many Buddhist traditions, and I'm sure in Hindu too, cooking, cleaning, sweeping is considered to be a spiritual practice if we do it with awareness and with focus, and not, you know, sweeping and thinking 10,000 other things. If we use it as an object of our awareness, of our mindfulness, then it's a perfect meditation object.
And my last question for you today is there a spiritual teaching or a particular teaching that you feel has a deep relevance for women? Can you share a little bit about this teaching for us?
Well, I think women normally are very attuned to the feelings of the heart because, you know, nature is preparing them to be homemakers and mothers. So they naturally feel an affinity with what is called the Brahma-viharas, or the illimitable meditations, which is loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Women naturally feel that. The important thing for women is when we are developing, say, loving kindness and compassion, to remember that the Buddha advised us to start with ourselves first and to make friends with ourselves, to wish that we should feel okay and that we will be happy and free from suffering. Because so very often women are caring for others and they forget to care for themselves. And this is not a good thing. We also have a responsibility towards our own well-being in order to give out that same feeling towards all others. So I think that developing the qualities of the mind and the heart is very important. I met a number of male meditation teachers who have said that women naturally have more affinity with meditation than the males do, because women are more at home in the intuitive. And so, as one Lama said, you know, they can jump into the void in a way that men like to take it step by step by step, but the women can just jump. And so he said that their affinity with meditation is often, they go faster and higher once they get their scattered minds centered. Sometimes women are more emotionally distracted. If once they can get the mind focused and calmed, then they can go very quickly forward. And so the emphasis in the beginning is on getting the mind calm and clear, quietening down the monkey mind. But also women often find devotional practices very rewarding. I have a devotion towards their particular guru or towards a specific deity. In Tibetan Buddhism, many women feel a very strong affinity with Tara and her fearless compassion. She's a very strong lady, she's very feminine, but at the same time, absolutely fearless. And doing things. She's also very well known for accomplishing people's needs very quickly. So, so I think that's the point, that, you know, we should play to our strengths. But one weakness is that sometimes women become too emotional. And so therefore to get the mind quiet and calm and clear and focused and more mindful and aware, then everything else falls into place beautifully. And women become really excellent vehicles for the spiritual path.
Thank you very much, Jetsunma, for sharing with us today. Your words will be deeply appreciated and felt by our community. We're wishing you all the best and hope that we have a chance to cross paths again sometime soon. Pranams to you. For those of you interested in learning more about Jetsunma Tenzin Palmo's teaching, please visit tenzinpalmo.com or see the text accompanying this video. Om Namah Shivaya.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.